welcome back, everybody. We've got a fairly familiar face, actually. Roll the clock back probably nearly 12 months to the day. Bob and I were sitting in an office in King's Cross with a lot less money in the bank and a lot less people.
Cool. So I'm Bob. I'm a software architect.
Pleasure.
I'm currently working for Cazoo.
Okay.
We are a used car startup in the UK.
Yeah.
We're launching in a few weeks, and hopefully by this time next year, your mum and your nan will have heard of us. That's the plan.
Okay. What's Cazoo's mission?
Cool. So Cazoo's mission, I mean, it literally says it on the top of our stationery, I think.
Yeah.
Cazoo's mission is to transform the way people buy used cars in the UK. So right now, the used car market is characterized by sort of low trust and poor convenience, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a joke people have, which is whenever I say, I'm working for a used car startup, they sort of look at you and go, are you a used car salesman? And that says everything. Well, that tells you everything you need to know about the industry, that it's like a joke even to be in it.
Yeah.
So right now, you want to buy a car, you've got sort of two routes.
Okay.
If you know exactly what you want, then you look on Auto Trader or HeyCar.
Yeah, of course.
There's one guy in Glasgow who's got one,
but
you're not going there, so you get the next best thing, and that's in Birmingham, but at least you can get there and back in a day.
Yeah.
Or if you don't know what you want, you just go to a dealership, and they've got like 30 cars on a forecourt. And at some point, you're going to drive one of these cars around, and you're not a mechanic, so you don't know what you're going to look for.
Yeah.
And then eventually you pull the trigger, and you have to go in an airless room with some shiny suited lizard person who wants to upsell you because his commission is coming off the finance, right? And the insurance and the tire cover and the exhaust
or
polish.
the add-ons, so just piles it on.
Yeah, you don't want any of that, right? So it's horrible. People hate it.
Yeah.
So what Cazoo want to do instead is we're not like a listing site. We own all of our stock.
Okay.
We have about 1,500 cars at launch. You go to the website.
Yeah.
We've put all of our cars through a 150-point inspection process, so you know that they're good quality. You choose a car, you buy it, just like you buy any e-commerce product.
Yeah.
3 days later, we'll deliver it to your house.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, then within 7 days, you can return it. No questions asked, full money back.
Okay.
So my mate bought one during the private beta, and he returned it because I think on day 3 it rained, and then he realised that the windscreen wipers made a really annoying slapping noise.
And that was
from that point, that was it. From that point on, everything about the car just needled him, right?
Right. Okay.
And that's the kind of thing you don't get from a test drive.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So he returned it, and it was all good.
So a fully integrated Deliveroo for cars.
Basically, yeah. So we own the stock. We've refurbed them, so you know it's not going to be crap.
Yeah.
We'll bring it to your house, and we'll look after you.
Cool.
Pitch.
So we're going to do Cazoo 2.0, and we're going to find out a little bit about what's happening over the last year. So, Bob, say hello again. Talk to us a little bit about the last 12 months. Well, obviously, I'll break that down, but I guess introduce what's happened over the last, month, 2 months? What's been going crazy?
Yeah, it has been pretty crazy. Hello again. Nice to see you. Yeah, it's been pretty wild. So over the last couple of months, we've just closed a Series D round. So that I think we raised another, I can't remember, $400 million or something ridiculous. So the valuation is now north of $2.5 billion. We are still hiring. If you're out there, if you're engineers, please do send me CVs because we're hiring aggressively. And yeah, really just kind of going from strength to strength. It's been interesting. We keep seeing kind of more record-breaking days in terms of sales. So I think every part of the business is kind of flat out.
Okay. Honestly, I've lost count how many, you said Series D. Obviously, that puts things into perspective. But in the summer of this year, I saw another funding round, and I thought it was an existing article already. I'm seeing it go bonkers. So
yeah.
I guess you obviously have to keep some things confidential. I respect that. Talk to us a little bit about what that funding's for. Or
you know what? I don't actually know. So the thing about Cazoo is it is a founder-led business, very much so. Like Alex Chesterman knows what he wants, and he does tell people eventually what he's thinking, but he keeps his cards quite close to his chest. So I think the last time we did a big funding round was we knew we wanted to launch these Cazoo customer centers, but are now opening across the UK. So I think we'll have, some 50 sites by the end of next year or something. where
Wow.
you can go in, you can get your vehicle serviced, and you can do part exchange, and you can pick up a car if you don't want to get it delivered to your house. That's what we're doing there.
Wow.
And as part of that, obviously, we bought Imperial, who were a
Yep.
car supermarket. This round of funding, I
Yep.
don't know what we've got earmarked for it, in all honesty.
Okay. That's cool.
Whenever I have to just say, it's nice to have a war chest, you never know what use we'll find for it. So I'm expecting some surprises.
Nice. Where were we October last year? And I appreciate we are pretty much freestyling this, so
Yeah.
no pressure. But
Mhm.
where were we, or where were you guys up to going through your first release? I remember the conversations. First
Yeah.
release. We had to keep things on the low for a couple of weeks. Don't spoil it as in all in one what's happened since then, but talk to us about some of the changes.
Yeah, I guess the changes really since then. Is that when we last spoke? October.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
scary, isn't it?
that is scary. So shortly after that, we launched. So we did public beta, I think, in October, and then proper launch in December, and then kind of advertising at the beginning of the new year.
Yeah.
And then things started to go crazy, right? So I did a talk for might be Talent Point at Cazoo HQ about kind of how we'd cope with scaling.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of fun. For the most part, things are more or less the same in terms of technology. So we're still fully serverless, except for some stuff we got when we bought Imperial Car Supermarkets another time. Still TypeScript, still very much reliant on EventBridge, still kind of doing that kind of serverless event-driven architecture thing.
Yeah.
I guess the things that we are really doing now, sort of 18 months old, is we're now trying to understand. We've got something that works, and people are buying cars. Like, we've proved the model. How are we going to scale this to 10, 100 times its current size? Which I don't even want to think about how much revenue that'll involve, but that's the plan. And for us to do that, what does it actually look like? So we're really now sort of talking about the second iteration of a lot of these systems, and how we want to change the boundaries that we introduced in the first place.
In theory, have conversations started about what that might look like, or how you do that?
A lot of what I'm thinking about at the moment is these kind of fundamental capabilities.
Okay.
So we've launched in kind of typical scrappy startup style, just bigger, where you write a lot of software that you think might work, and you throw a load of stuff at the wall, and you try to make some money. And you kind of learn while you're doing that what your business process really looks like, and where the gotchas are, and where you need to pay attention. And so now what we're talking about is building out these kind of fundamental systems that we need. So one of those is like an order management system that will manage the life cycle of a customer's journey through Cazoo.
Okay.
One of those is like inventory management, so doing a better job of understanding where all our cars are in the refurb process and that kind of stuff. One of those is logistics, and doing a much better job of planning and optimizing kind of how we move cars around the country. So these are quite fundamental things, and we have some systems that do them now, but they're nowhere near rich or clever enough to kind of get to that scale.
Yeah, I can remember actually talking about some of those points last October, which I appreciate. Yeah, year ago, probably not much has changed. In truth, okay, nice. Talk to us a little bit about, I guess, raising serverless and accelerating serverless in teams within, I guess, or trying to help people understand, okay, what is serverless? What's the business case for it? How do we best use it? Has that been tough?
Internally, not really. I think that it becomes like water, right? Like if you fish don't really talk about water because that's just what you're swimming in.
Yep.
I think at Cazoo serverless is like water. It's the obvious thing to do. I was recently looking at doing my AWS solutions architect, and all the questions about like running servers and managing databases and firewalls and stuff. I don't do any of that stuff. I've forgotten all of this stuff. So I think it becomes quite natural, and it's quite difficult when you're talking to people about it, because they'll raise all of these things that they think are big objections about why you couldn't possibly do it, and you're like, well, I've already done that, and actually it works quite well, and it's actually quite boring once you're using it. And then the technology now is 5 years old. It's not. We're kind of past that initial hype curve.
Okay.
I think now we're starting to see kind of wider adoption and kind of a broader range of use cases.
Why do you think companies aren't adopting it at the moment?
I think the major reason is that it is a fundamental shift in the way you deliver software.
Right.
So with Docker, you could take you could take your PHP monolith and you could stick it in a Docker container and you could just ship it to the cloud and you were done.
Yeah.
And with VMs, you could take like your PHP monolith and you could stick it in the VM and you could ship it to your data center and you were done, and so on. Like for the last however long, 15, 20 years, however long it is, there's been this model of I'm going to build this big application and I can just ship it as a complete artifact. And serverless breaks that.
Okay.
In order to use serverless effectively, you need to re-architect those systems into small components that communicate through message passing.
Yeah.
And I think most people hadn't done that work. And if you have done that work, then serverless is a perfectly natural thing to do. But if you've not seen systems that are built that way, I think it's quite a cognitive jump to get from I've got a monolith to I've got 1,000 functions. Like, how does that happen?
Okay. Cazoo 2.0 is going to need a load of engineers, like you've said. So anyone who's listening, throw some CVs in, okay, sensibly. But you talk about it's a mindset shift in terms of delivering software. If people are listening, I've said many a times on here, we've got 1,000 subscribers, 90% of people are software engineers. They are listening. What mindset are you looking for and do you calibrate for when you're talking to people?
Good question. So the things that I would look for in engineers we were hiring, prior exposure to kind of event-driven systems or message-oriented systems. If you've done some kind of CQRS or you've built things where you're kind of shuttling messages around on RabbitMQ, or you've played with Kafka, that kind of stuff, where you're doing messaging, that's a really foundational component, I think, of serverless, is a kind of idea of message passing.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, we look for a commitment to DevOps culture is, I think, really important. We don't have an ops team, so our dev teams own their stuff in production, and we're trying to work with them to get better at that kind of operational practice, kind of through better observability and through kind of more reliable deployments, get to the point where they can look after stuff in production. They don't need hand holding. So that's a challenge. So kind of experience of DevOps culture and of kind of cloud technologies and message-oriented systems, I think, are the big things.
Nice. Okay. And you touch on the observability part. I think we were touching on that previously, and you mentioned that can be a challenge. Why is that a challenge? And again, is it maybe a mindset thing for some engineers if they haven't had to do that and think about what dashboards, etc., do we want to create, or what do we want to see from what we're building?
Yeah, it's a lot like the conversations I have with people about DDD, is that most engineers have never seen observability done well, and so they don't know what they're missing. And it's sort of like trying to describe blue to a blind person, right? But good observability means that you can ask questions about a system that's running in production.
Okay.
And so when something new happens, when someone pops up and says, why is this thing happen? Why is this product out of stock? You can actually go to your system and you can start interrogating it and asking questions. That's not dashboards or like monitoring CPU usage. That is the ability to understand the current state of the system or previous states of the system from inspecting its external outputs. And I think that's the thing that you don't really get until you've seen it working well. And then when you've seen it working well, you're hooked. And you're like, I never want to deliver software again unless I can do this thing, because it's made such a huge difference to me.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. Do you see a lot of people do it badly, like I probably just explained, and dashboards, etc.?
I think there is a burgeoning observability community. I think that people like Charity Majors have kind of really pushed on this, and it's kind of through the DevOps community and the testing community. I think it's becoming a much more visible part of like the technology landscape.
Okay.
But I think that until quite recently, when you talk to people about monitoring, they were thinking in terms of I've got a dashboard and I'm just looking at CPU usage or numbers of requests or whatever it might be. And I think really what changed was the rise of Elk as a store for logs, because once you're able to search large amounts of log data, then you start talking about structured logging. When you start doing structured logging and you're including all of this context about what's happening, and you can do much richer things in terms of recording events, that's when you start to see, I can pick out patterns in this data, or I can now index my data in such a way that I can ask questions and say, how did you end up in this state? And that's really, it's about being able to drill deeper than just seeing metrics. I think a lot of people still equate observability with metrics. That's not what it is. It's about being able to delve into states.
Okay. Have you learned more about doing observability better at Cazoo, or did you know this stuff previously, and that's what you're driving?
I think this stuff I learned at Made, and actually at Cazoo, I've not been able to implement it as fully as I would like, just because everyone's so busy all the time, and I have very limited hours in the day. I think Cazoo is still behind the curve in terms of where I'd like it to be.
Okay.
In observability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. What have you learned over the last year?
What have I learned? Most of what I've learned, in all honesty, is for the first time, I'm not really a hands-on engineer.
Okay.
And the reason for that is Kazoo is so big and so sprawling that I can't write that code. And if I try, all I'm going to do is go and blunder in for 20 minutes and write some code, and I'm going to get pulled off, and some poor schmuck is going to have to fix my mess.
What Bob built.
Yeah, exactly. And I did a lot of that at Made, and at Kazoo it would be even worse. So I don't want to do that. So a lot of what I'm learning really is, how do I build an effective technology organization such that each part of it knows what they're trying to do and isn't tripping over all of the other parts. It's more about kind of people and those socio-technical boundaries that we talk about a lot these days in the DDD community. It's about people and communication and collaboration more than it is technology. From a technology perspective, it's been serverless and changing my mindset to think serverlessly rather than the stuff I'd done previously, which is also a big learning.
Okay. What have you learned on, I guess, the people impact? Or what do you think you've learned? Or what stands out for you over the last year? And it's been a big year.
It has been a big year. I guess the thing that I've learned when I was a younger engineer, I was very
scary thought.
It is a scary thought, but I was very much of the thought, hierarchy is bullshit. You don't need that. We should be able to just have, like a flat organization. Kazoo has definitely cured me of that particular illusion, because it's so big and because there is so much kind of orchestration required, it just wouldn't work. So that's kind of the big thing I've learned, actually, is the value of management and of good management. I think a lot of it is quite context specific, right? So I think the things you learn when you're working on a large system are about the nature of that one system, and it's hard sometimes to transpose those to another context. So the things I've been learning are selling cars is difficult for a bunch of reasons, and those reasons mean that you can't treat selling a car like you would selling a sofa. So selling a sofa is fairly straightforward. Like, you have a sofa, someone pays you some money, and then you send it to their house. Buying a car turns out not to work like that, because there is only one car in the world that they've bought, for one thing, and they break in lots of interesting ways, and there's lots of bits of paper that you have to send around, and charging cables and USB cards and things that go with them, and there's finance deals that are secured against it, and a whole bunch of complex crap that means it doesn't actually work like e-commerce in the way that maybe 12 months ago we thought it was going to. That's why now we're talking about this order management system and all these things that we need, because we've learned so much about the domain.
Yeah, yeah, and this is going back to what you said probably minute 5 about order management, your inventory, some of the logistics. So in your head, you're building software for what you think the software's purpose is for, right? And you think
Hmm.
it will just work just swimmingly like that. What's the oh shit moment where you realize you're building it wrong or it needs to look very different? And and
Yeah,
how do you find that out?
it's more a sense of creeping horror, I
Right,
think,
okay.
than a light bulb moment.
Is it? Okay.
Um, so
Like,
there
shit,
were,
that the
yeah,
fulfillment process doesn't happen like that. It happens like
yeah,
this.
yeah, things come up, and you're like, oh, we have this problem where both of these teams need to work together to change this thing because they're they're coupled in this weird way that we didn't anticipate. Or yeah, exactly like that. The fulfillment process doesn't work like that. Actually, it turns out when they are valeting a car, they don't do it like that because they can't carry the tablet into that part of the place. So instead, they've got a pen and paper. Then they take a photo of the paper at the end and upload it to someone, and she types it in for them. That kind of stuff. You go, huh, we got that wrong.
Right.
That's not what we thought they would do.
Yeah.
And I think these things kind of accrete over time. And then that's when all of a sudden you get the moment where you go, oh, hang on, I know what we need to do differently. We need to drop all of that nonsense and build this other thing that solves all of those problems. And then it seems really obvious in retrospect.
Yeah.
And you're like, of course, that's what we should have done. That solves all of these problems and makes so much sense. But you couldn't see it until you'd learned all of those hard lessons, I think.
Is there a big focus on UX for you guys? Like, just out on the forefront, like understanding what is actually going on? What are our customers doing? How are they buying?
Yeah, there is actually. I think Kazoo does a really good job of doing user research with our customers. So we've got a really good UX team who do a lot of kind of interviews where they kind of walk people through the process and find out where their pain points are. That stuff's really great. The stuff that we do out in the field, like at the refurb centers, where we're kind of repairing all the cars, that's harder to do user research on.
Yeah.
But in some ways, I think more critical because I think that's the area of the business where Kazoo can compete and can differentiate themselves is on doing those kind of unit economics better. Like, can we refurb better? Can we deliver better? Rather than on the website where yes, we want to make it usable and we want it to be trustworthy and simple and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, not where we'll compete against our kind of newly emerging competitors.
Nice. Okay. Before you love us and leave us, like we've said a couple of times, you're looking for loads of people. What is almost your sales pitch? I know you don't know what's to come, but maybe you know some bits of what's to come in Kazoo 2.0. But maybe what's your sales pitch for people listening as to why they should go and join on top of serverlessly stuff and trying to do observability better and other
Yeah,
things.
all that good stuff. So, as well as all the, serverless and DevOps and all that kind of modern stuff, it is the fastest moving business not just that I've worked at, but that I've ever seen. I
So,
think we hold the world record for first year revenues of any company anywhere on the planet.
wow.
We are north of $2.5 billion in valuation after 18 months, and we're not slowing down anytime soon. So there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of autonomy to do it. I just need smart people who want to get on and fix things so that we can do all of this stuff that we need to do to achieve our ambitions.
Okay. Here's a tip. Follow Bob the Mighty. He hasn't included this, but he loves people with clean code as well.
That's true.
Bob, pleasure for a quick fire
Always.
round. Thank you. I'll let you get back to kids and everything else. All right.
Back to the new normal.
That's it. You enjoy, everyone. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no_. We've also got a website which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.